The stew that we're going to be making today is a split bean. No, it's not split bean. It's split pea. Green split peas. Oh my God, am I having an aneurysm in front of the camera? Green split peas. Okay, let's do that again, shall we? Welcome back. How are we doing? Over here, it's stew day. It's the day to make a stew. It's stew time. The stew that we're gonna be making today is a green split pea stew with broccoli rabe. I find them super easily at the store. I feel like they're really readily available, but the flavors are so well developed. Everything sort of comes together in the end, creating this incredibly rich, creamy, hearty dish that I find myself kind of reaching towards, like, again and again as it sits either in a big pot, or maybe I have people coming over and like spontaneous, unfuzzy, not dinner party energy, but just like a come over and protect yourself from the heat and we'll hang and we'll have like a cozy night. There is really nothing better to serve, I think, than just like a big pot of stew. Like, no one is ever unhappy to see it. I like, honestly, that it is mainly vegetables that we're dealing here with. Like, the bulk of it is hugely vegetarian. I do start and build the flavors up with an animal product, but if you're a vegetarian and you want to skip it, you can easily swap it out for olive oil and the stars are still there. Like, I feel like the stew would have the same identity. The important thing here is to have enough fat. I think I'm gonna have that on my tombstone. The important thing is to have enough fat. We're gonna begin our stew with a good old friend, bacon. Normal smoked bacon. The bacon here starts the recipe and it finishes the recipe. So it kind of comes in at the beginning because we are going to render out all of its fat. We're gonna get it really, really crispy and we're gonna leave all of the fat in the pot. I'm gonna make a lot of stew. Don't ask me how many this serves. I'm not sure, like 8, 10? Depends on how much you eat. So I'm gonna cut the bacon. Also, I've complained before that it's really annoying when, you know, you're supposed to just use 2 strips of bacon for a recipe and then you're left with all the rest of the bacon, and Lord knows that you can't store it in the same package because for some reason our technology is not advanced enough for that yet. It gives me great pleasure to just use the entire pack of bacon. There was no other meat, and it, like I said, the bacon provides many things here, not only its flavor, its fat, its crispiness, its texture, like it's everything. So I don't feel bad about using the entire pack. This bacon has so much fat. I love it. The fat is like 60% of what we're here for. It's kind of like carbonara, like when you're making carbonara, that like the base of the entire sauce is that fat from the guanciale. We're doing something similar here. Okay, onto the stove we go. So this is where I wish I were cooler. I wish I could tell you, go and watch TV, go and walk your dog. Nothing's gonna happen in the pot right now. But you do want to do a little bacon babysitting here, because what you don't want is your bacon cooking too quickly. You don't want it to brown too quickly. You don't want it to crisp up too quickly. Basically what you want is to build up the heat very, very slowly. That is what's going to allow for the bacon to start releasing its fat very gently. Eventually, yes, brown and crisp, but that is gonna happen like way later, okay? Be patient here. Your patience will be rewarded. Fantastic. While my bacon slowly cooks in the background, starts steaming, but notice that I don't hear a sizzle. There's no sizzle going on there. It's like incredibly gentle. While that happens, I'm just gonna prep the rest of my ingredients that are gonna go in the pot with the peas eventually, which is a combination of onions and garlic. I wonder if anyone's gonna be like, he's gonna make us watch him chop onions again. This recipe calls for leeks, but I couldn't find leeks. I went to the market and they were out of leeks. Stunning to me. That has never happened to me before. Leeks are so abundant this time of year in this part of the world, but it goes to show that you should have swaps in recipes and home recipes, because you never know when you're not gonna be able to find a friggin' leak. I can't wait to show you the amount of fat that we're gathering in that pot. It's really monumental. Last year in the newsletter, I released a recipe for a stew different than this one. And I wrote this whole bit that was called Give Stew a Chance, which, you know, I was writing as if stew was stew, like a steward. And like writing about like Stu being like dependable and Stu being a nice guy and Stu being warm and like giving Stu a chance, right? And it's something that I really like enjoy thinking about, like how food, whether it's in wintertime or in sad times or difficult times, certain foods can act like a person that makes us feel good. They can be a tool for providing care for ourselves and to others. And I love that. I think that that is like one of the most romantic applications of food. So about 20-ish minutes have passed. I will call it, and I will say it now. This is too much fat. It's fine. It's fine. Having extra bacon fat around is an amazing investment. I keep a little bit around to do literally whatever I need fat in the future for. To fry anything, to make scrambled eggs, to make aioli, but you already know how to do that. Anything. It's never bad news to have a little bit of extra bacon fat. I am going to fish out and strain my bacon bits. And then what I'm gonna do is that in this fat, I'm going to cook my onions. So now that I've added my onions, my garlic, you'll see that there's a fond at the bottom of the pot. It's like that brown stuff. That is bits of the bacon that were left behind. That is a little bit of the onion as well. There is enough water in the onion to start scraping everything up. So I'm using a wooden spoon and I'm making sure that I'm lifting all of those brown bits. It's incredibly flavorful. If you decide to skip the bacon and swap it for olive oil or whatever, then you definitely do want to season this a bit more intentionally. These flavors should be intense. These are the foundations. These are the bricks of the house. Without an intense, flavorful, almost too intense foundation, it's not going to have personality. They're going to be missing a lot of things in this house. Personality isn't one of them. And then to that, I am adding my split peas. I'm gonna add between 2.5 and 3 cups of split peas, and I'm gonna let them kind of fry a little bit in the fat with the onions, with the garlic. I'm gonna let everything kind of toast together. I'm gonna build up the flavors in the pot. And once the peas have lost their intense green color, they look a little bit more like khaki military green-ish situation. I am stopping the heat and I'm beginning the stew portion part of this recipe by adding apple cider. I've used apple cider before, and it's because, I don't know, I really love and appreciate the combination of sweetness and acidity that cider brings. Developed fatty, toasty, roasty flavors with apple cider is like, it's amazing. If you can't find apple cider or you're not a fan of it, you can definitely substitute with white wine. And if you don't want to use anything alcoholic, I would just use water and some apple cider vinegar, which will, you know, simulate the acidity and the sweetness. But honestly, the apple cider is like, it's what we're here for. Like, you think that we're here for the bacon. We're not. We're here for the apple cider. Like, it's so good. And now to ensure that my split peas cook evenly and well and they have sufficient liquid to absorb, I'm gonna call it 2.5 cups of water. That tastes delicious. Just a little bit of salt. I'm not gonna go too crazy here with seasoning because the idea for a stew is that the liquid is absorbed by the split peas, but that it eventually reduces, right? And as it reduces, the salinity of the entire thing is gonna change. So I wanna be mindful, like the salinity is going to intensify as the liquid reduces. And I'm gonna set my timer for like 45 minutes to an hour. So while that's stewing, let's talk about greens. Let's talk about what else we are going to add to this stew. First and foremost, now that it is stewing and now that there is enough liquid, this is the perfect opportunity for me to add a little bit of Parmigiano. I am actually going to add the parm rind to the stew while it's like boiling and bubbling. And in terms of greenery, I have probably the world's most beautiful bunch of broccoli rabe. Like, they have a really long stem and I want to eat it. I don't want to waste the stem. So what I'll do is that I'll try and separate as best as possible the leaves from the stems, and the stems I'm just gonna roughly chop in a bias because I'm fancy. Now, and I'm gonna let those stems cook with the stew. Just because they're a lot hardier, they're gonna take a lot more time and heat to actually like break down. And the leaves and the flowers I am going to leave to add at the end. I love this. And it goes. I tasted my stew, I tasted the peas. They are soft, they're cooked. Now, the final steps. I'm going to incorporate my broccoli rabe leaves. I'm gonna let them cook. If you are making this and by design you want to have a lot of leftovers, I would keep the broccoli rabe leaves fresh in the fridge, like in a container, and incorporate them with each serving. What you don't want is to like add everything in the pot and then having a bunch left over and leaving it there for days, because that is when the leaves are gonna get really wilty and they're gonna oxidize. They're not gonna be very appetizing. I'm gonna let these guys shrink a little bit. And then I'm finishing everything with two final ingredients. One is mustard. You can use Dijon mustard, you can use Dijon and honey. I today have this wonderful German mustard, Löwensenf. Löwensenf. It's strong. It's a little sweet. Man, it's good. I love mustard. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons. TBD, I'll taste and make sure that it is well seasoned. This mustard with the cider, with the onions, with the bacon fat, it's gonna pair perfectly. It's gonna give it the right amount of like pepperiness, spiciness. This is also acidic, so it's gonna also wake everything up. And I am finishing absolutely everything with cream. Cream is what makes the entire stew kind of come together. It's gonna mellow out all of the flavors in the most terrific way. This is 15% milk fat. I tried it with milk, and A, it wasn't fatty enough, and B, it was kind of curdling. It was doing something that I didn't really like. And I also tried it with heavy cream. It was too much. It was way too lactic. It was making everything into like gravy land, which we didn't want. So 15, I think, is a nice compromise. What a beauty. As you can see, like we added a bunch of broccoli rabe, and in the end, like it all kind of disappeared. I'm adding a little bit more salt. You want to just make sure that it's well seasoned before, but especially after the cream, because the cream, obviously, it's going to mellow out the flavors a little bit. And if you're like me, you'll add a bit more mustard. There we go. Putting back in the heat for just a little bit, just to let it warm through really, really well, because temperature dropped a little bit after I added the mustard and the cream. Okay, we're good. We're ready to plate. Are you excited? I'm excited. Let's do it. I'm starting with a big spoonful. And then I'm adding a little bit of fresh broccolini, just like an herb almost. And then I'm topping with Parmigiano, so I'm gonna do long strips of Parmigiano. And then, last but not least, I bet you forgot, our crispy bacon. This is the crunch. This is like where we take it back to the protein. I mean, I don't need to explain to you that bacon tastes good, come on. I'm gonna drink with more cider, because I think it makes sense. Cheers. But let's give this a taste. The depth of flavor, it just kind of keeps going and going and going. It's so nice. If you want to finish with a little bit of lemon juice, that's totally cool. I don't need that much more acidity because we finished with that mustard. It's like thick and rich and like indulgent. That's basically all I want to eat until I see flowers coming from the ground. That's it. serve with fried bread, serve with tortilla, serve with whatever you want. A side of like steamed white rice. That would be really nice with this. If you made it this far, I sincerely hope you make this. I sincerely hope that you give this a try, because whether you are in a climate as cold as mine or not, I think that it's worth giving a try. If you like recipes and if you want to receive more, you can always subscribe to the newsletter. We have fun over there. Happy stew day. Happy rest of the winter. Ciao.